It's Monday, February 18. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Energy Minister Favour Williams met on Sunday morning with a technical team from the state-owned refinery Petrojam, following reports that contaminated fuel from the oil refinery is being released to the public. The Gleaner reported on Sunday that the country could be on the verge of another bad gas saga due to smelly gas at the refinery. An employee warned that the fuel could damage the engines of motor vehicles. In a statement on Sunday, Mrs. Williams said she had been in communication with Paul Hu, Petrojam's board chairman, as well as Telroy Morgan, acting manager, refinery optimization and business support, about the reports. Mrs. Williams promised to update the country on the findings in the coming days. 26 infrastructure works valued at more than $351 million have been started, completed, or in progress under the Minister of Justice's Capital Works portfolio for the third quarter of the fiscal year. This was disclosed by Justice Minister Delroy Chuck as he reviewed the quarter at a press brief on Friday. Minister Chuck singled out the completion of the Court of Appeal.
That over the past year, we have spent over $1.3 billion. We completed the Court of Appeal, which is a shining example of first-class facilities that not only Jamaica but the Western Hemisphere can be proud of.
The minister said that almost $200 million was spent to renovate courts across the island.
During the past year, we were able to spend significant sums, almost $200 million, to upgrade, improve, and renovate several courts across the island. We can say proudly that all the courts functioned well. No one broke down. We were able to ensure that the equipment were maintained. We bought new generators for each court complex, so that when GPS went out, that the generator reconnected. We were able to ensure that no court broke down because the air condition wasn't working. So all the courts worked well over the past year.
He said that $510 million have been budgeted for the renovation of the offices of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The work is to be completed in 12 months or less. 5 subcontracts valued at more than $22 million are to go to tender this week for roadworks in St. Thomas and Portland. That's according to Government Minister Darrell Vaz. This follows the allocation of more than $8.4 billion Jamaican dollars in the 2019-2020 budget. The government made the allocation to fund its ambitious plan to rehabilitate more than 100 kilometers of roadways across the eastern end of the island. This represents the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. And further, Vaz said work on the proposed highway from Harborview in St. Andrew to Yalas in St. Thomas is set to commence by year-end. 4 of the 5 subcontracts set to go to tender next week are for roadways between Morant Bay and Surge Island, valued at US $5.1 million. Surge Island and Cedar Valley, valued at US $5.5 million. Morant Bay and Prospect, valued at $4.8 million. And Hordley and Long Road, valued at $2.3 million, all in St. Thomas. The other subcontract is for the strip of road between Montreal and Fair Prospect in Portland, valued at US $5.1 million. Former Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Grace McLean, is assuring the public that adequate post-assessment procedures are in place for the Primary Exit Profile, PEP, examination. Further, she said that parents will be able to utilize the Access to Information Unit to submit their appeals, which will be vetted and handled accordingly. The former Chief Education Officer said assessment results and placement information should be provided during the 3rd week of June. The new primary exit profile will begin on February 26 with the ability test. The performance task in language arts and mathematics will be done on March 27 and 28, while the curriculum-based test will be done on April 16 and 17. Some 41,423 students have been registered for PEP. Professor of Law and Director of the Human Trafficking Academy in St. Thomas University in the United States, Dr. Rosa Patty, says a multinational approach is needed to combat human trafficking. She says, quote, "It's a transnational crime encompassing multiple jurisdictions throughout the world. We have to work together," end quote. Professor Patty was delivering the distinguished lecture on human trafficking held recently at the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, St. Andrew. She noted that nations must be willing to work together to achieve the mutual goal of eliminating human trafficking globally. She commended the Jamaican government for acknowledging the issue and putting measures in place to fight the crime. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has hailed outgoing Permanent Secretary Carol Palmer for her contributions to the ministry and to the country.
And I take this opportunity, P.S. Palmer, to thank you for the work you have done to ensure that so much has been accomplished in the last 3 years. We are proud of what the Ministry of Justice has done, and a lot of the credit must go to you as the Permanent Secretary. What is always interesting is that whenever P.S. Palmer and I met, and I say, I want to do this, she says, I knew you were going to ask for that. Always anticipating what exactly I wanted to get done. And basically, I said to the staff, and the Permanent Secretary Palmer was aware, I'm not interested too much in talk. I'm interested in results, results, results. And to her credit, we have accomplished so much.
Last Wednesday, it was announced that P.S. Palmer was to be moved from the Justice Ministry to take up a similar posting in the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology under new Minister Favour Williams. Mrs. Palmer had served as Permanent Secretary in Justice from 2002 to 2009, where she proceeded on early retirement, only to be recalled for a second stint in 2012. Her replacement will be Sansia Bennett Templer, who had recently been appointed as Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. Minister Chuck was speaking at the Justice Ministry's third quarterly press briefing on Friday. In regional news, we look to Trinidad and Tobago, where police say they have uncovered a plot to kill Police Commissioner Gary Griffith. Media reports are that intelligence sources say the contract to kill was connected to last week Wednesday's human traffic bust, in which 18 Spanish-speaking girls were rescued. This is the second plot uncovered against the top cop. Last November, a similar assassination plan was discovered.
Intelligence sources who spoke to Guardian Media on the condition of strict anonymity confirmed that the report was forwarded to Commissioner Griffith for his perusal the same day it was prepared. Guardian Media spoke to Griffith about the report we obtained from intelligence sources.
I am fully aware that there's been yet another plan for an assassination attempt on me, and I expect this will continue. The more I decide to peg back criminal elements, the more they will be frustrated. As I stated before, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there are many toes I'm stepping on. The toes may vary from persons who may be wearing their pants one foot off from their waistline to those with Hugo Boss suits. It is irrelevant to me. I will do what is required. I have my job to do. They have theirs. If they feel that theirs is to try to take me out, it is totally irrelevant to me. They could try. It will be an effort and futility.
The two-page report was dated Friday, January 8th, 2019, but the 8th fell on a Tuesday in January. However, sources familiar with the contents of the document told Guardian Media that was a typographical error, and it was in fact Friday, February 8th. This report came almost 3 months after a special branch report in November last year that Guardian Media reported exclusively, which revealed that the Muslim and Rasta City gangs were planning to wipe out Commissioner Griffith.
Guyana's President David Granger on Friday met with members of the cabinet in what has been referred to as a plenary session. The usual cabinet meeting was replaced by this plenary as the government didn't want to contravene a high court ruling that the no confidence motion passed in National Assembly last month had in effect led to the downfall of the government. The meeting was also termed an extended cabinet with all government ministers present. We get more in this report.
Minister of State Joseph Herman usually briefs the media after cabinet meetings. On Friday, he held a briefing, but not one of cabinet, he said, but one of a plenary of ministers. Cabinet meetings have not been held, Herman stated, since the Chief Justice declared that the cabinet was immediately disbanded on the night of December 21st. But what is this plenary of ministers that has been meeting in place of the cabinet?
So the plenaries are, as I said, an extended cabinet with all of the ministers included. Now it is noted that in fact there is a judgment of the court that was made with respect to the cabinet, and that judgment is appealed, but we have not a stay of the judgment as yet, and therefore we have not held cabinet meetings as such. Cabinet plenaries, however, are chaired by the president and include all of the ministers, and therefore has all of the powers that a cabinet, ministerial plenaries that a cabinet can have.
Though Herman declared the plenary of ministers is not the cabinet, but it has all the powers of a cabinet, he could not state a specific law which provides for this meeting of the ministers.
The appointment of a minister sitting as a minister appointed in a meeting with the president has the full authority of the government to perform its functions.
That's what I'm trying to get, sir. What authority are you citing? Which part of the law or the Constitution provides for this?
The provision under government, the Constitution, provision under the president.
The meeting of the plenary of ministers has given the go-ahead for the award of several multi-million-dollar contracts, but Herman denied that this was so, insisting that the plenary was being informed that the contracts were awarded and making a note that this was done.
The contracts are determined by the National Procurement and Tender Board Administration. They are usually sent for a noting, that is to say, for the recognition that these contracts have been finalized and have been issued. So there's no question of an objection or approval where those are concerned. It's just a noting, and that has always been the position with respect to that.
Though Herman said the government was adherent to the ruling of the Chief Justice by not having the cabinet meet, the president has not moved to name a date for elections.
In Cuba, that country was recently visited by the president of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of Laos. More in this report from Richard Richards.
At the Palace of the Revolution in Havana, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, received Pani Yathothou, president of the National Assembly of the Popular Democratic Republic of Laos, who is paying an official visit to the island in response to a request of the Cuban parliament. During the cordial encounter, the distinguished visitor expressed her solidarity with the victims of the recent windstorm that lashed against several municipalities in Havana. She also praised as very important the meeting held November last with the Cuban president during his visit to Vientiane, the capital city of Laos. On the other hand, Díaz-Canel thanked the authorities of the Popular Democratic Republic of Laos for their continued support with Cuba's struggle against the economic, financial, and commercial blockade imposed by the government of the United States of America. The president of Cuba also explained the procedures followed to modernize and adapt the Cuban new constitution that will be subjected to popular referendum the next 24th of February. He also sent his best regards to the president of Laos and reiterated his gratitude for the affectionate reception received during his visit to that sister nation.
In sports, Windies one-day international batsman Chris Gayle announced on the weekend that he would be retiring from ODI cricket after this summer's ICC World Cup, which will be held in England and Wales from May 30 to July 14. The 39-year-old left-hander had scored 9,727 ODI runs, which is second only to Brian Lara among West Indians. in 284 matches since his debut in 1999. Gale, who represented Lucas for more than 20 years, has made 23 ODI centuries, and his 215 against Zimbabwe in 2015 was the fourth highest score in history. A part-time off-spinner, he has also taken 165 ODI wickets at an average of 35.33. He has played 103 tests for the Windies, but in recent years has focused on limited over matches, both internationally and in domestic 2020 competitions. And that's the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Pleasant viewing.